Let's rank all of those Marvel Legends Psylocke. Boom, what's up, familia? Dayspring here with an episode of Power of X-Men to rank every single Marvel Legends Psylocke. Now, in the past, we have ranked every Psylocke figure, and the crowning winner of that ranking list was the Light Up series Psylocke from 1996. But because we got the Gamer versus Marvel versus Capcom Psylocke in, I wanted to do the list again. But I was like, let's make this specifically just for Marvel Legends. So we're going to rank all of the Marvel Legends Psylocke figures. I have them all. I'm going to bring them up right here on camera as we talk about them. I want to know your ranking, which one you think is the best Psylocke figure out of the bunch. I get a lot of people who message me saying they love the Strike Force Psylocke, the Mafex Psylocke, which I'm like, well, the Mafex Psylocke, though you can display with your Marvel Legends, it's not under the Marvel Legends banner. A lot of people like the Strike Force Psylocke. So it's really interesting. There's a lot of opinions out there. We're going to go through it. I got my Gamerverse Psylocke in yesterday. I have feels on it. If you've seen them on social media, you know. But for the sake of this video, why don't we start our ranking? In Marvel Legends formats, we have 7 Psylocke figures, and coming in at number 7 is the Nimrod box set X Force Psylocke. And she is a straight up repaint of the Apocalypse Wave Psylocke, just in her later X Force costume. Now, of course, she was in Uncanny X Force. I read Uncanny X Force. I love Rick Remender's Uncanny X Force. This costume came later in the run. I don't remember it. Actually, I thought this was the relaunch Uncanny X Force where she has a big white X on her chest. And I was like, oh, they got the costume wrong. I was this years old. I've had this figure for quite a few years until I realized, oh no, actually it was in towards the end of that Uncanny X Force run. Regardless, I think did anyone out there ever watch Dino Riders? There was a character named Serena on it, and I really wanted a Serena figure, like the toys that came back in the day. And I remember I got her, and she was in a different costume than her main costume. That's how I feel about this figure. That I'm glad I have a Psylocke figure, but it's not the right Psylocke figure I want. I would have rather had her in her 90s costume, right? If you bought this figure, you bought it for one reason, and I'm not saying that's true for everyone, but the majority of people bought it for one reason, and that was to get Nimrod, right? You got a Phantom X, and you had a Psylocke come with it, but it was Nimrod who was having his moment during the Hoxpox era, and we really wanted Nimrod. I always found it kind of curious that we didn't get Nimrod as a Build-A-Figure for the House of X-Wave that we got. We got the Tri-Sentinel, but I guess we needed an incentive to buy these other figures. It was nice to get Phantom X because Phantom X hadn't been out for a while. He had come earlier in the line, but a whole new generation of collectors needed him. But this Psylocke, it felt like they just threw her in there and they're like, what costume can we do? And we did this one. So this one, although I think she is a fine head sculpt here, it's an improvement off of what we got before. She is coming in at number 7. All right. Coming in at number 6 is the Mojo Wave ToyBiz Psylocke. Now, she would be one higher, but we'll discuss the reasons when we get to the next figure of why not. But I really enjoyed this figure when she came out. I was moving to New York for the first time. I was working at Marvel, and the Mojo Wave was just hitting then, and I found her at the Toys R Us in Times Square. What an era, waking up, going there, and then walking out to Fifth Avenue to go to my job at Marvel. I thought this figure nailed Betsy. I love how the hair is sculpted. The paint and the wash, I think, just looks exquisite. For 2006, this was a phenomenal figure. She was phenomenal. Obviously, she's not really holding up by today's standards. I mean, there's a peg that you can put her on an air stand so she can kick and do all that fun stuff. I love how her sash kind of like coils in the back. I think the face sculpt is very clean and beautiful. It's this figure again in 2006, not by today's standards, but in 2006 was an incredible figure to have. And you know, Familia, this was the first time we got a proper Jim Lee 90s Psylocke since the ToyBiz 5-inch light up Psylocke. I know we got Ninja Wave Psylocke with the Crimson Dawn and the black suit, but that, wasn't the Jim Lee. So here we are, a Jim Lee Psylocke coming in at number 6, Mojo Wave, ToyBiz, phenomenal figure for its time. I think she's aged well, but the reason why I have her at number 6, I gave number 5 to an inferior figure in my opinion, but because she's modernized, is the Apocalypse Wave Psylocke, which was our definitive Psylocke. Now, my main grievance with this figure is that she is pretty generic and sanitized as compared to this figure right here where she has personality. You know what I mean? And like you can see like the creases in her top. And this just says a little bit more Psylocke than this does. That being said though, if you're a Marvel Legends collector and you're displaying your X-Men and you want Psylocke, you're not going to display her because I mean the technology in the action figures is a vastly improved over the I guess would it be a decade? She came out around 2018 and this was like 2007. So yeah, about a decade. Let's just say about a decade. But you can see the leap in technology, but even so, this just feels void of personality. And I know a lot of people may want to say that this is Squanin, but this is before Krakoa. This figure came out before Krakoa, before Hunt for Wolverine, and Betsy was put back in her original body. So for all intents and purposes, this is still Betsy. We still haven't gotten a proper Quanin figure. I would love her in her Revanche costume. I really would love to see that character eventually make its way to Marvel Legends. I would love to see that character make her way to Marvel Legends. But as of right now, we only have Betsy figures, even in her Psylocke form. But one thing that was really great was that we got this side blade. I don't know if this is the original one that came with the figure, because obviously she's been reused and repurposed around. But this was actually, for the first time, I want to say, one of the best side blades we have ever gotten for Betsy, because the other ones, actually Mojo Wave. Here's another thing. Mojo Wave Psylocke did not come with the side blade. She did not come with the side blade. So it was nice to see her with her side blade here, right there, and it goes in really well. But I think the figure's a little lacking. It's a bit generic. If you like this figure, you think she's a definitive Psylocke, you let me know. But again, like much like the Nimrod figure, this is the original one that the Nimrod figure is a repaint of. I like the hair sculpt. I think she looks good. There was a more blue with black hair variant, running change variant that was put out there. It wasn't officially a variant. It was just a different production of it. I never got her. I really wanted her. I'm sad I never found her. There was a Kohl's in Jersey City Mall that I went to almost daily trying to find her because at the time they were getting these figures in. But yeah, there she is. And she is coming in at number 5. Number 4 is the Strike Force Psylocke. And I am okay with this figure. It feels so negative, everything I'm saying. I'm sorry, Familia. I'm okay with this figure. I think she is very pretty. I mean, like her digital printing. This is the leap in technology that we needed for Betsy Psylocke figures. I mean, look at the face here. This is beautiful. The digital printing versus just this very painted on head. I mean, the digital printing here, I mean, you can see the leap in technology and how they switch to digital rendering versus just sculpting. This looks absolutely stunning. This is a beautiful looking figure. She doesn't rank higher on this list because it is the Strike Force Jim Lee cover. Uncanny X-Men 250. Listen, I know, and I know that there are people out there who really love this. Shout out to my bro David, who collects them all in the blue and gold costumes and loves putting all the X-Men because he wants to see them all in the same costume. That's fine. It's not my cup of tea. I think when I look at this objectively, though, this is a much better looking figure than this Psylocke, the Apocalypse Wave Psylocke. But if I was being subjective, I would have swapped the rankings on it. But regardless, Betsy wore this. This is her Strike Force costume. It's pretty iconic. This is when Hasbro was really leaning into that Uncanny X-Men era, doing more Jim Lee, right? We got Xavier. We got 3 box sets of this. So hopefully we'll get more of them. You know, there is a rumor that Gladiator and Deathbird are coming as a 2-pack, which would be phenomenal. But this figure right here, which I think a lot of people have been like, you can find these box sets now at Ross. If you do, you do. I've never had the luck of being able to find like Marvel Legends I've really wanted at Ross. I've seen a couple at Ollie's. I was like, okay, I'll pick up another one. But I've never had that luck, that privilege. But you know, one thing that I don't really like is how sort of thin her hair is. It doesn't pick up too much on camera, but when you look at it in person, I just picture her with like longer hair, very lush and long. And this is very to the side, which I get. That's more of a Jim Lee style. But it doesn't translate as well in action figure format. But even so, that is a beautiful Psylocke face. Probably up until this figure was released, the best looking Psylocke face out there. All right, and that's number 4. Coming in at number 3 is Lady Psylocke, or Lady Mandarin as she was called in the comics. This is when Psylocke goes through the Siege Palace and emerges in this armor, brainwashed by the Hand. Now, it was rumored that we were going to be getting a armored Psylocke, and everyone thought it was going to be the Australian Outback era Psylocke. Rightfully so. I was among them. However, we ended up getting this one, which again was inspired by a Jim Lee cover. Now, that could be recipe for letting fandom down. And you know what? You know what happens when you let a fandom down? They become very vocal online. But my goodness, this is a gorgeous figure. Absolutely gorgeous figure. Problem is, though, this is a costume she wore just for a few issues. If you put her on display, you're like, oh, where do I really put her? But my goodness, I mean, look at that face sculpt. And she came with 2 heads, the windswept hair, which, you know, Psylocke and her windswept hair. But that is a reference to the 1996 Light Up Psylocke. So if you know, you know. But she looks really great. And I wish this had been the armored Psylocke because, my goodness, they nailed it. I mean, obviously, one day we will get the Australian Outback Pink Armor Psylocke. But even so, I'm glad. I'm so happy this figure exists. This figure is a work of art. Absolutely a work of art. I'm sorry, though, that there's no real purpose for her in a display. But if you have her, you know she's gorgeous, and you know you'll find an excuse to display her somewhere. I'm curious, does anyone have her displayed? I'd be really curious if people have her displayed. All right, we got our top 2. Our number 2, our runner-up, is the Uncanny X Force 2012 Psylocke. That was part of the box set released exclusively at San Diego. It was my first time going to San Diego, and I waited in line. I want to say, oh my gosh, was it an hour? 2 hours, something to that effect, just to get her. And at the time, because this was 2012, I was like, oh, she's so expensive. For 3 figures, it was like 75, 80 bucks. I'm forgetting what it was. Secondary market's like 300. But look at her. She is stunning. And of course, she does not have the digital printing, but she looks great. And you have to understand, though, that in 2012, Marvel Legends was just making its comeback, right? We were getting the return of Marvel Legends. The line had sort of floundered when Hasbro took over. I mean, think of the Annihilus wave, right? Everyone was like really worried about Marvel Legends. It wasn't until we got like the face off, like with Winter Soldier and Black Widow and Warpath and Deadpool, that things started turning around. And finally, we got the return of Marvel Legends and the Uncanny X Force box set. And Phantom X was released around this time. I believe it was in the Epic Heroes wave. Do not quote me on that. But there she is. And she was Psylocke in her Uncanny X Force costume, which the Rick Remender run dominated the X-Men conversation back then because it was so good. I know there are a couple of people that don't like that run. That's fine, but it was very popular. And look at her right there. Great figure, great mold. She was the one that we had displayed for the longest time. Still one of my favorites. This is a must-have still to this day. I think this figure holds up. If I didn't have number one, this is the one that I would have on display. Well, actually, I lied to you because because I'm a continuity nerd, I did have her on display. But look at this. This is a figure from 2012. This is the one that would come out like 5-6 years later. And I'm being biased. I think this one looks better. I think this one looks leaner, tougher, where again, this one is a bit more sanitized. Look at that. Just so you can compare the hairs there. Right there. So, of course, number one goes to the Gamerverse Psylocke. The one that just came out on Sunday. I was going to say yesterday because I got it yesterday. This is a Psylocke that we have all been dreaming of. Finally, a great mesh. She is in the right costume, and she has a wonderful, tough grit to her, which is what I would expect from Psylocke. Look at that right there. I mean, listen, again, I'm still biased. I think this one still holds up. But I think there is a huge leap right here when you look at this Psylocke compared to our newest one. She looks beautiful. And she comes with an alternate head that is windswept as well. Psylocke loves her windswept hair. Now, in my review of all Psylocke figures, I put the Light Up Series Psylocke as number one. This, just so everyone knows, takes the place of her, number one. In fact, I get the same awe and wonderment when I first got this Psylocke figure. I mean, after the initial shock that her hair is windswept, this is what I get seeing that as well. I just see that awe and wonderment. I'm like, wow, they actually made a figure like this. This figure I still think holds up. I mean, if you're a Psylocke stan, this is a figure you have in your collection. I mean, without a doubt. But man, look at her right there. She comes with a Thanos accessory, which is fantastic. Right there. By the way, I took the Thanos accessory out this morning, so I spent all day yesterday just with her, making content with her, and I'm holding the Thanos figure, and I'm like, you know what? It's a pretty good figure. Absolutely great figure. This figure is based off of her Marvel vs. Capcom appearance. She looks great. I mean, listen, that was a defining series for me growing up. I played that video game. I'm still playing that video game because I have it for the Switch too. But this figure easily goes into your main X-Men wave. She's great. Look at her side blade. Side blade is light years better than the previous one. Oh, I mean, I don't know. It depends. It depends on what you like. Maybe I think this one. I mean, the word I'm using is grit today. I think this one's a bit more gritty, and you can see like the psionic energy bubbling, where this is a little bit more shaped plastic, if that makes sense, right? And this is softer plastic. This is harder plastic, but that is my ranking of Marvel Legends Psylocke figures. Again, I think this is a figure to get if you're a Marvel Legends fan. She is a Target exclusive. I could not get her. My co-host Flink got me one, and I also ordered one from Evolution Toys. He gets those figures in, and they sent it to me. So I was very lucky in that regard. I went on the app at midnight, couldn't find it, but this figure, I mean, this figure is a mic drop. I'd be curious what everyone thinks about her down below. And also, fun fact about the packaging, this is based off of the character select screen on Marvel vs. Capcom Clash of Superheroes. However, Psylocke, because I believe she's an assist for that game, but she doesn't get a character select like that. So they rendered this specifically for her, which is interesting because I thought they would. Psylocke is more known for Children of the Atom and Marvel vs. Capcom, and they don't have this style of art like the half face, but they ended up doing this for her. And they also gave her what I'm assuming is her own unique logo for this. So they broke the budget for the packaging here, but yeah, it's really beautiful packaging for this figure just to add to why it's number one. You can also not open her up and you can just keep her on display up there. Psylocke in the last few figures has gotten really nice rendering. I mean, look at that. There's no doubt, again, there is no doubt whether you display them or not, or like the costume or not, there's no doubt that these figures, I'm like falling over here. There is no doubt these figures have been given A-list treatment. Look at that. We'll do that right there. All right, Familia, let me know your thoughts below. Hit me up at Power of X-Men on Instagram, and we will see you later.